1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. So welcome. Nice to see you all here today. It's lovely. There's been such a lot of effort gone into getting everything spick and span. The team here has just been amazing, and they've been working non-stop. They're looking at me, so I don't say we. But you can see the cafe's looking fantastic, isn't it? We've opened it up, and so everything's good. And we're going to be filming this. Does anybody have any objection to being filmed? It's mainly from behind. It's Michael they want to film.
I'll turn around too.
Oh, you could turn around and take a bow. But we will be using it on YouTube, so nobody has any objections. And if they do, just see me afterwards, and we'll blur out your face or something like that. Okay. Like there's two names up here, the Joseph Communications and the World Meditation Alliance. Now, it's one and the same thing, really, in that the Joseph Communications are 8 books, of which been brought through by mediumship. Michael has amazingly brought through 8 books. This is direct contact, and I've been there on a lot of them when they've come through. And Michael has no idea what comes through. I know on many occasions we've sat in circle, the little group of us that we were told to call the Band of Light. So that's 3 of us. That's Jane, Michael's partner, and myself and Michael. We are the Band of Light, but we don't use it a lot. It's the message, not the messengers, that count. And the message has come through Michael, and they are incredible. The books, I couldn't believe it. But when we've sat in circle to bring these through, we used to do it on a Saturday morning at Michael's house. And it's not as a lot of people would imagine, in that there isn't a lot of fancy work. We have an opening prayer, which is very quick, and then Michael goes, and that's it. Michael's gone, and Joseph's come in, or PG and some of the other cases. The Persian gentleman would be the head of the soul group, okay? And so Michael, all of a sudden, is no longer Michael. He stood there, but he's Joseph. And we've no idea. When we did, the first book I was with was the 3rd one, which was...
The 4th. Oh, Your Life After Death.
Your Life After Death. Yeah. And we sit there in circle. Nobody's got any idea what's going to come through. There's no plan of a book. There's no nothing. Michael goes, and the Persian, Joseph comes in, and he says, today, chapter 1, Your Life After Death. and that, oh, that's a surprise. And then he talks for an hour, and he talks for 1 hour is a chapter, yeah? And at the end of that, Michael comes round, and it takes him a long time to come round. You won't mind me saying this, will you, Michael?
No, not at all.
Yeah. That, and it takes an awful lot out of Mike. But the first thing Michael says when he comes round is, was it okay? Did it come through? He doesn't know. And so Michael is completely clean on receiving this, with no idea in advance of what's coming through. And so for me, that just adds to the authenticity of the messages that come through, that they're exactly unfiltered, untouched by human hand. And we were told also that we haven't to have an editor or a book, we have to do it ourselves. Well, Jane's a proofreader, and so...
I transcribe them as well.
Pardon?
Giving my full due. Transcribe them as well.
Okay.
Recordings.
Yeah. And so the ability was there to publish the book without going to publishers. Because if you go to a publisher, they say, we'll just tweak this bit. Or we'll do that, or we'll do this isn't sellable, it won't be popular. We were told it doesn't matter, it comes through, those are the words, we don't adjust them. And so that's what it is. It's absolutely authentic. And at the time, even Michael didn't know what was coming through. So it hasn't been scribed by anybody, it hasn't been written in another language first or anything like that. It's come through pure. 100% pure. through, and that's what the Joseph communications are. But then we were told that we have to do some work, that we have to take responsibility. The situation on earth is that we take responsibility. And to do that, we do that through meditation. And we can only do it through meditation. Each one of us has to take responsibility. There's going to be no rescue operation from up above. It's going to be us that do it. We have to do it. And this is why the three of us we've spent the latter part of our lives just doing this one way or another. It's so important to get out. And we've never made any money. In fact, it's cost us enormous amounts of money. And when we should be retired, we're doing this because we believe so strongly in it. And the fact is that we have to do the work. We have to link in to spirit, and we have to meditate. But the way that the spirit world can help us is through meditating alongside us and guiding us on the intention, or the prayer, some people call it. They're guiding us on a month-by-month basis of what it is we should be doing. And so that was when they said that we should start the World Meditation Alliance. And so we, three of us, started the World Meditation Alliance. But that's just a name. It's joining it and doing the work. You have to do the work. And this is why we want as many people as possible who are appropriate, which you all are, which is fantastic, to be able to join together, align ourselves with the angelic prayer, the angelic intention, and bring through massive, massive amounts of these higher vibrations. And that's what we do on a Tuesday night with Lisa. Lisa's here. And I'll back up Rebecca here. So that's what we do on a Tuesday. We do it on a Monday in America and Thursday morning in Australia. And that's what we're doing. But even the numbers that we've got, we have on Friday we had 160 people meditating together. But what came through was enormous, absolutely enormous. Okay, so those are the different parts. And tomorrow morning I'm doing a tour of the sanctuary, which will be telling you more about the home, because the sanctuary is the home. So that is the work and action. That is the philosophy, not the philosophy, that's the truth. And the sanctuary is the base, it's the home, that's what it is. It's the house of Joseph, it's the house of the communications. So I hope that makes it a bit clearer on the setup. Phones are all off, should be all off. So Michael, have I said everything I need to say?
I think so.
So I'd like,
yes.
I'd like to now introduce Michael, I'm stepping off now and listening. Michael has put a unique course together today. And there will be meditations, 1 in the morning and a couple in the afternoon.
2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon.
I'm dyslexic. So that's what's going to happen. And so now, without further ado, Michael Reccia, Michael G. Reccia.
Oh, not necessary. Don't clap until you see the content today. Good morning, hello. And first of all, thank you so much for deciding that it's worthy of your time to spend a day together examining and looking at spiritual capabilities, spiritual perspectives. So we're grateful for that, and for also travelling from all parts of the country and from Ireland to be with us today. Thank you. During the course of the day, there will be some interactive sessions, as we've just said. There will be questions and answers. Well, questions and hopefully answers, if I can get my brain going. And there will be a guided meditation this afternoon that is a premiere. I've put it together specially for us, so it's the first time that it will have been held anywhere at any time. And there will, most importantly, be a splendid buffet lunch, courtesy of everyone here at the Sanctuary who've worked so hard to put this together. And so, without further ado, I think we'd better get on with the day. Are you reading? Oh my goodness, right. That is terrible. I better get my glasses. I can't believe this. Looks like bad news. What have we got? Oh yes, it says here, cows all over the world are breaking wind. And as a result of that, we're doomed. And it's our fault. And there's more. There's another headline, breaking news here. It says that our ancestors did despicable things. And we are responsible for what they did, despite, I must add as a spiritual note, not knowing who we've been in the past or where we've been. But it says here we should hang our heads in shame. And there's more. Good grief. Something is coming that will have no resistance to. It says here it could be budgerigar flu, or dormouse flu, or aardvark flu, or the Black Death, or the White Death, or the Purple Death, or the Polka Dot Death. But we are doomed, and we should be very afraid. Oh, another one. The Martians are coming. They're coming to, come down and eat our brains. And we should watch out for their flying saucers. And we should stay in our homes as much as possible. And again, we should be very, very afraid. And this last one, I don't want to bore you too much with these headlines, but the last one is, according to scientists, so it must be correct, God does not exist. There is no point talking to anyone outside of ourselves or within ourselves. There's no point putting our hopes and our dreams in the hands of a higher power. It's useless. We should stop believing immediately. Bad news, bad news, bad news, both globally and personally. And of course, those are fictitious headlines, but they reflect what's going on with society at the moment. And in all seriousness now, and on a personal level, I've got to share with you, I'd like to share with you something that Jane and myself are aware of, in that we know a couple, they're good friends of ours, called Muriel and John. And they've been going through hard times lately, in that John has been in a coma in hospital. And every so often he comes out of this coma, and then he goes back in. They can't seem to stabilize his physical condition. And Muriel is a saint. She visits him all the time, every day, stays there for hours. We don't know how she's keeping up. And we were there last week visiting when John came round. And we sort of quietly edged towards the door, because obviously this was a chance for husband and wife to connect. And he said no, he saw us and he said, no, I want you to stay. What I'm going to say is important to you two as well as to Muriel. He said, Muriel, come closer. So she pulled up her chair to the bedside and she took his hand. And he said, Muriel, you've been with me through everything. He said, when I was sacked, there you were by my side. He said, when we lost the business, you stuck to me like glue. He said, when we lost the house, you were there. You didn't leave me for a minute. Every day you were there, supportive. When I had that car crash and was recovering, again, you were by my side every minute of every day. And when my health started to fail, you were a brick. You were there with me constantly. He said, Muriel, I have something to say to you. And she squeezed his hand and he looked at her and she smiled and he said, I'm beginning to think you're bad luck. This is the way we should start things today, by breaking the crystallization that surrounds us and infuses us from the negativity of this world. We need to be uplifted. And so let's begin our day. Society says to you, at the minute poor you, impoverished you, little you, powerless you, unhealthy you, sick you. Oh, really? Well, we know that spiritually we are none of those things. And this is a day to celebrate the fact that we are none of those things. This is a day for remembering. Remembering what? Remembering who we are, why we are here, where we're going to, and what we're capable of. Poor us, impoverished us, unhealthy us, little us, powerless us. I don't think so. Because today we are asserting that each of us is a wonderful us. Each of you is a wonderful you. And I've divided this morning into 3 segments under the umbrella title of A Question of Balance. Because we need balance in our approach to life at the moment. The odds are heavily stacked against us materially at the moment. But if we want to steer a spiritual course through life, then we have to add the spiritual. We have to balance the scales. And we have to remember what we are and just what we can accomplish if we do remember that we are spiritual beings. And the first of the 3 sections under the umbrella title of A Matter of Balance is health and self-healing. Health and self-healing. Now, you can divide. Now, before I must share something with you before we get into this. Jane and myself, there's a fact about us that we don't share with many people. And we don't share that fact because if we do share it, if we let slip what I'm going to let slip with you today, we are greeted with looks of disgust and sometimes with aggression and with anger. And the fact is a simple one, and we don't use it to aggrandize ourselves, just to say that this is what happens to us. Because Jane and myself haven't been to see a doctor in years. In my case, for over 40 years. And I share this with you because we were in our favorite restaurant a few weeks ago on a Saturday, and we like to go there once a week if we possibly can. And we like the staff there, and the people there are very nice. And we always go in early so that we can have a quiet corner to ourselves. And on this occasion, we weren't to ourselves. There was somebody sitting opposite. There was a couple sitting opposite. And we got into conversation with them. And inevitably, not on our part, but on their part, the conversation turned to matters medical. And if you go to a cafe or a restaurant and you sit there and you listen, how many conversations are about, oh, she's had it all taken away. Oh, he's had this added to him. My goodness, they don't know how she's living. Oh, I've got tests coming up. I've got this coming up. I've got that coming up. Always about medical matters. And there's this mixture of fear, but also we're part of the crowd. There's something wrong with us. Isn't it great? And Jane happened to let slip, as the conversation turned to matters medical, that we hadn't seen a doctor in years, and that me in particular, I hadn't seen a doctor in about 43 years. And you should have seen the look on the lady's face. She sneered at me and she said, well, you've been lucky. Well, no, actually, I haven't. Because remembering to infuse yourself with light, remembering to trust the divine within rather than the circumstances without, is difficult. It takes practice and it takes adherence to that belief. And it's very strange that people almost want you to be ill and want you to go down a prescribed, if you forgive the pun, route, rather than relying on the light that you have within yourself and the light that you have access to in order to negate any challenges that might come up health-wise. And so I've divided the keys to health and healing into 5 steps. The first, if you want to take this particular route, and I'm not suggesting you should, is affirmation. Affirmation. I am healthy, Father. It is done, and it is so. The second key is gratitude. Thank you, Divine. Thank you, Father, for my perfect health. I'm so grateful that right now, whatever appears to be happening to me is an illusion. Great. Thank you. The third is trust in the divine. Yes, I trust in the people around me. I trust in the specialists around me, but I trust more in you. And so once I have handed over my health to you, I trust that that health is perfect. Thank you, Father. Recognition is the 4th step. I recognize that you and I, divine, Father, Mother, however you want to describe the divine energy, are part of me. I am a facet of you. You're not ill. Therefore, as a facet of you, contained within your consciousness, how can I be ill? And the 5th step is regular health checks and critter clearing. Regular health checks. What do I mean? I don't mean going to a medical dictionary and thinking, today I've got this. I've got these symptoms. I better have this checked out, that checked out. I need this regular test, that regular test. Not that sort of health check. Sort of health check I'm talking about is to do with what Joseph describes, and if you've read the books, Joseph describes as feeders, which are thought forms, low thought forms, that can attach themselves to us, attach themselves to one of our major chakras, energy vortexes, is it vortices, whichever. And it is in their interest to keep us in a low state of emotion and a low state of health, because they absorb the vibrations, the energies that we put out. And they cannot absorb the energies we usually put out if we're in good health. They have to reduce that vibration so that they can absorb a lower vibration that keeps them going, but keeps us either in a bad mood or depressed or ill. And a question that's often put to me, and it's a valid question, is, well, it's all right for you, Michael, you can see the darn things. We can't. How on earth are we supposed to know where they are, and how on earth are we supposed to get rid of them? Well, you don't need to be able to see them, you can sense them. And we're going to sense whether you are clear of these things now. We're going to do 2 things in a quick meditation. The first thing is to assert health in ourselves and to address any aches and pains or any problem areas in the body or in the mind that we might have. And the second thing we're going to do is to look for any disturbance in our energy field and then cleanse that disturbance. So we need to be able to move into a state of altered consciousness quickly. We can't always spend 20 minutes getting into a deep state of meditation. We need, what happens if you're in a shopping mall and you think, oh, there's something attached to me, what do I do? Or I need some energy, what do I do? You've got to be able to switch over from this reality to a higher reality in order to access your spiritual perspectives, your spiritual wavelengths. And we're going to do that now. Can I ask you to close your eyes, please? Now, we're going to imagine. And many people over the years have said to me, I have no imagination. Of course you have. You know what you're going to have for tea tonight. You know what you're going to do tomorrow morning and perhaps next week, and you've got an appointment next month. You might be looking forward to it. But it's there, isn't it? It's there, and you can access it as something that hasn't yet happened, but you can feed it into your life's path, and you're using your imagination. Even when you think you haven't got imagination, you're using your imagination to convince yourself that you haven't got imagination. So we're going to imagine. And what I'd like you to do, please, is to relax as much as you possibly can and to see in your mind's eye the number 10. Now you can see that as either a number, you can see that as the word, T-E-N, you can see it in what color you want, what type style you want. Look at it from the front, from the back, sideways, however you want to see that number. See the number 10. And as you concentrate on it, feel your consciousness letting go of the worries of the day, of any stored up anxieties, any stored up vibrations that you don't need on this little journey we're going to take. Concentrate on the number 10. And now see the number 10 slowly fade away and replace it with a number 9. And the number 9 takes you slightly further into an altered state of consciousness. You feel slightly more peaceful, slightly more distanced from any aspects of your daily material life that might have been causing you worry, that might be challenging to you at the minute. And as you concentrate on the number 9, look at it in all its glory, however you want to picture it, and then see it slowly fade away to be replaced by the number 8. And at this stage, you're becoming increasingly peaceful. Any negative thoughts have disappeared. You find that you are sidestepping the material world and entering the greater world. As you let go slowly and peacefully of the number 8 and replace it with the number 7. Now we're going even deeper into a meditative state. We're leaving behind all the trivia of our daily lives. And we realize at this point that that trivia is trivia. It's not really affecting us as a spirit we really are. Let the number 7 fade away and replace it with the number 6. Almost halfway there now. Becoming peaceful. Feeling happier. Feeling joyful, feeling in touch with other spheres of reality. As we let go of the number 6 and we replace it with the number 5. Halfway there, becoming increasingly peaceful, filled with bliss. Replace the number 5, see it fade away, and let's see now, in your mind's eye, the number 4. Always becoming calm, quiet, still. The rush of the material world is disappearing as you replace the number 4 with a number 3. Almost there, almost ready to do some work on ourselves. Replace the number 3 in increasing peace and stillness with the number 2. Nearly there. Very peaceful, very calm. Very happy. Replace the number 2 with a number 1. And we're there, so we let go of the number 1, see it fade away in your mind's eye, and we're now ready to do some healing on ourselves. Now we all have aches and pains that occur, that crop up, some of them more serious than others. Some of them cause us distress. Some of them are a recurring theme in our lives we wish we could get rid of. So if there is an area or areas of your body that are causing you or have been causing you concern at the moment, I want you now in your mind's eye to see those areas. To see that elbow perhaps that's painful, or that foot that gives you problems, or certain organs in your body that don't seem to function as they should do ideally. And as you see them in your mind's eye, I want you to imagine with your in-breath that light, white light, is pouring out from the center of your chest into your entire body. So as you breathe in, imagine that you are breathing in white light from the center of your body, from your spiritual heart center. And now, as you breathe out, see that light being directed by you as a beam into the area or areas of your body that have been giving you problems. So it's breathing in the white light from the center of your body, the divine white light, and with each out-breath, pouring that white light into the area or areas of your body that are causing you or have been causing you concern. And you can also do this with areas of your mind that might have been troublesome of late. See them being infused with that white light. Now, with every in-breath, you're bringing light into your body. With every out-breath, see the light that you are pouring into the affected areas of your body becoming more and more brilliant. Becoming so brilliant with each out-breath that you can no longer see the affected areas. All you can see is the light. So it's in with the light with an in-breath from the heart, out with the light with the out-breath into any affected areas. And I'll leave you in silence for a couple of minutes to continue this exercise, and then we'll move on. Now, I'd like you to slowly move your consciousness away from those areas of the body you've been treating, and in your imagination, move up to the top of your head so that it feels to you as though you are looking down on the top of your head. And I want you to imagine that at the point of the crown chakra in the center of your head, the top of your head, you can see resting on top of that chakra a sphere of light, perhaps 5 inches in diameter. And it's sitting so that it touches the top of your head at the point at which your crown chakra opens and closes. Now look carefully at that sphere of light. Look at it with your spiritual eyes, but also look at it with your spiritual senses. Reach out to it. How does it feel to you? Is it a sphere, a ball of white light? Or does it feel heavy to you? Is it clear or is it clouded? Does it feel a harmonious vibration or does it feel a jangling vibration? Reach out with your senses. You don't have to be able to see mediumistically to pick up what is going on with that area of energy at the top of your head. So now, having sensed the state that your sphere is in, and it could be in a perfectly fine state, or it could be in a state of heaviness or cloudiness, It could have picked up someone's negative vibrations. It could have picked up one of the unwanted passengers we were talking about earlier. I'd like you to repeat the exercise of breathing in white light from your heart, infusing your body with it. But then with the out breath, I'd like you to send that white light into that sphere that is sitting at the top of your head. So it's a breathing in of the white light throughout your body, and it's a breathing out as a beam, that white light, into that sphere of energy at the top of your head. So I'd like you to repeat that for a couple of minutes, and with each out breath, with each infusion of light into that sphere at the top of your head, I want you to see that sphere, if there is nothing affecting it negatively, to become brighter, or if you feel that there is something affecting it negatively, to become cleansed. With each out breath of white light, you are cleansing that sphere. You are restoring it to its perfect function. And we'll talk again and move on in a couple of minutes. Okay. Now you can withdraw from that sphere so that you are looking down on it once again, and it should, to your senses or to your spiritual sight, now be clear of any negative vibrations. It should be a sphere, beautiful white light, infused with white light from your heart. I'd like you in your imagination now to see that sphere sinking into the crown of your head, slowly shrinking and moving down into the crown of your head so that it is totally absorbed by your crown chakra. And when you've done that, when the sphere is inside your head, not outside of your head, resting on the crown of your head, I want you to imagine that there is a silver manhole cover that you conjure up. It's heavy, it's solid silver, and you place it over the chakra at the top of your head to protect you, to close the chakra, and to keep it sealed until such time that you want or need to use it again, to protect you from any negative vibration. And if you've done that, we're now going to count backwards. I want you to see in your mind's eye the number 1, feeling peaceful and cleansed and energized. Fade away the number 1, replace it with a number 2. We're beginning to move back into the material world as we need to do to get on with our physical lives. Move the number 2 away, let it fade away, and replace it with the number 3. Coming back slowly. Still feeling peaceful. We're bringing out this time. We went in with the challenges of life. We're bringing out the peace of the divine realms. Replace the number 3 with a number 4. Gently feel yourself coming back to the material world, returning to your physical body as you replace the number 4 with the number 5. Halfway there, but feeling very different to how we did when we went into this meditation. Replace the number 5 with the number 6. And the number 6 with the number 7. The number 7 with the number 8. Almost back now. The number 8 with the number 9. And the number 9 with the number 10. And finally, gently let the number 10 fade away. And slowly, there's no hurry, and in your own time, come back to this level of reality. Everybody back with us? Good. We haven't left anybody behind. Good. Now, of course, we only approached one chakra in that cleansing exercise. But we have 7, don't we? 7 principal chakras. Top of the head, the brow, the throat, the heart, the solar plexus, the spleen, and the base of the spine. And in a cleansing exercise, in the comfort of your own home and the comfort of your favorite armchair, at least once a week, it would be an excellent idea to look at those chakras and to see if you sense anything that is clogging them or affecting them negatively. If there isn't, that's great. You can add light to light and you'll be even more energized. But if there is, then you know how to deal with them. And you're using your imagination. You don't have to be able to see these things to get rid of them. But increasingly, as you go through this exercise, your senses will bring you information regarding the operation of your principal energy centers. You'll know when something is wrong. And you'll know now how to put it right. So don't be afraid of the critters and don't think, well, I can't see them. Is there anything wrong with me? You'll know what to do. And you'll know. Isn't it funny how our mood can change so very quickly sometimes? We've been talking to someone, or we've been looking at the news, and we've gone down. And we were perfectly fine in the morning. And it's at those times that we need to quickly check that everything is as it should be. And the countdown method, 10 to 1, 1 to 10, can be speeded up as you get used to it. So that very quickly you can take yourself out of this world and into your own inner world and into a higher spiritual vibration so that you can do some work on yourself. Okay. Next segment, I shall have a drink of water, I think. The second of the 3 sections in health and self-healing is manifestation. What a lot is said about manifestation. There are books about manifestation. You can get this, you can get that. It's so simple. It's nice if we can illustrate manifestation through example, and I want to do that. I want to give you 2 or 3 examples of manifestation working to boost your faith in the process. My spiritual mentor, Joan, who is now on the higher side of life and has been for many years, was quite poor throughout her life. And she worked from home as a chiropodist to put food on the table. And by the beginning of each week, there was absolutely nothing in her purse, nothing, not a penny. And so every Monday morning, with no prospects and with nobody ringing for appointments, she would kneel on the carpet, put her hands together, close her eyes and say, Father, by the end of this week, I need X. And the X would be a precise amount of pounds, shillings, and pence. And then she would get up, it's done. And then during the week, the phone would ring, people would knock at her door, and by the end of that week, she would have precisely that amount in her purse. Not a penny more, not a penny less. Now, her husband, Jack, was an ill man. He had 3 kidneys, been born with 3 kidneys, and not one of those kidneys worked properly. And he'd suffered from ill health for most of his life, for all of his life. And Joan and Jack had a rickety old car. And Jack was a saint. Whenever anybody wanted to meet a hospital appointment or be taken somewhere specific that was important to them, Jack would be there with that car and he would take them, despite not feeling well himself. And he was a deputy headmaster at a local school. And it was important that he reached his position in the school at a certain time every morning, which sort of would have been very difficult for him on the bus. He needed the car. And they'd had this car repaired and repaired and repaired, and on this certain day, it had given up the ghost. There was nothing more to be done about it. That car was gone. And Jack was despondent. And Joan said, "Don't worry about it, Jack. Get on the bus today. I've given it to God." And Jack sighed. He said, "I know you've got great faith, Joan, but God's not going to provide a car." She said, "I've given it to God. That's an end to it. Go to work, sort out your day. It is done. There's nothing more to be said." When Jack came home that evening, Joan said to him, "Our next door neighbour," I forgot what he was called, I think it was called John, another John, "wants to see you, Jack. Can you go in and see him before you have your tea?" And Jack sighed, but because he was dutiful, he went in to see the next door neighbour. Now, this particular gentleman was even more sick than Jack. And Jack had been taking him around for years to the hospital and to the doctors and so on. And on this particular evening, he found the neighbour lying on the settee, on the couch. And John said, "Oh, come in, Jack, come in. I've something to say to you." And he had one of his hands clenched like this. And Jack pulled up a chair, and the neighbour said, "Hold your hand out, Jack." And he said, "What?" He said, "Hold your hand out." And he held his hand out, and the neighbour put his hand over Jack's hand, opened it, and dropped car keys into Jack's hand. And he said, "I've come to the conclusion today that I am too sick to be able to use the car any longer." He said, "Jack, you've been good to me, and so my car is now your car." And Jack said, "I can't take..." "No," he said, "it's your car. Take the keys with my blessing." Now, Joan hadn't told the neighbours about the problems that they'd had with the car. And the very same day, because of her belief in that what she had asked for was hers, it was hers. On the subject of cars, I live on a very busy street. I've been there for 20 years. And it was difficult enough 20 years ago to park the car. Now it's darn near impossible because it's a terraced street and people have moved in, and instead of having 1 car apiece, they have 3. And they're not small cars. There's a huge van that is from 2 doors up, and that regularly parks outside. And when I used to come to the sanctuary, I'd have a devil of a job finding anywhere to park my car when I got home. And I decided that I needed, if at all possible, a private car parking space. And I went round to some of the neighbours that I knew who had huge driveways. And I've only got a little Fiat 500. I mean, you can pick it up and park it if you want to. And I asked and said, can I park in a corner of your driveway? I won't be there long. I won't be there every day, and I'll pay you rent. No. We came very close with some neighbours, didn't we? And then I think the lady's boyfriend said, "No, you're not doing that." And it didn't happen. And I thought, well, I've looked into every area that I can, and it's not happened. So I said, "God, I would really like a private car parking space. Thank you very much. It's done." And I forgot about it. And a few weeks later, there was a knock at my door. And there was an older man at the end of the street. Didn't know him well. Certainly hadn't talked to him about anything. And he didn't know the neighbours. And he said, hello, he said, I don't suppose, he said, it's a long shot, but I don't suppose you would be in the market for a private car parking space, would you? I said, come in. Come in. And he'd had a private car parking space for his wife's car. They weren't using it. He'd bought it and he wanted to sell it. And so I snapped it up. But my point is, at the point that I'd left it to God and assumed and affirmed that it was mine, it was mine. And I didn't have to look for it as I'd been looking for it for weeks. It came to me. Manifestation. Now, there are two things that we need to bear in mind with manifestation. One is that we can have what we want. We think we can't. We can have, I'll extrapolate on that a little bit further on. We can have whatever we want in the measure that we believe that we can have what we want. Because a lot of people say, well, manifestation doesn't work. How did you do it? Well, I gave it to God, and then I said half an hour later, have you done it yet? And I sort of believed in it, but I didn't totally believe in it. So one of the two keys to manifestation is you have to believe that what you want is yours the moment that you've handed it over and asked for it. And the second thing is, and this comes up a lot, I am not worthy of it. I don't deserve this or that. I am not worthy. Well, wait a minute. If all creation is contained within the energies of God, if all creation emanates from God, and you are part of God, how are you any less worthy of anything that you want to manifest than God is? And God doesn't say, I don't think I'm worthy of that. I don't think I need that new car. I don't think I need those finances. Now, that is not to say that there aren't consequences to manifestation. We have to understand if we want something, then we can have it. But once we have it, it takes one of two routes. It is either a positive addition to our spiritual route and fits in harmoniously with us, or it is something that takes us around a longer path forwards, and we have to deal with the consequences of having manifested it. So we can have whatever we want, but we have to be aware that what we want might present challenges to us. But then again, it might not. It might be fantastic and exactly what we need. But to say we're not worthy is a falsehood. And to say we can't have what we want is a falsehood. We can have what we want in the measure that we believe in it, but then we have to deal with whatever it is that we have sought to manifest. Now, there are two very good times to manifest, to activate the process of manifestation. And one is 5 minutes before you go to sleep. You lie there in bed, and the last thought is not I'm worried about this, or I'm upset about this illness, or how am I going to pay the bills. Instead of all the worries that come to us before we go to sleep, you use that time to say, I am, for example, healthy. I have this in my life. This is repaired. This has appeared. Thank you. And then you go off to sleep. And your subconscious, linked to your greater self, will then work on whatever it is that you've asked for and affirmed that you have, and bring it towards you. And the other time to manifest is whenever you've got a few minutes. Joan, spiritual mentor, used to describe meditation as daydreaming with a positive attitude. What a great way to describe meditation. Daydreaming with a positive attitude. And we daydream all the time, don't we? You know, used to work in an office and I daydreamed for a good few hours every day. So whenever we've got a few stray moments, we can affirm, we can daydream and see what it is that we want to manifest. And we can affirm that it is ours, that it is coming towards us. And in the measure that we see it, you know, if it's an object, we see the color of the object, the form of the object. we imagine ourselves touching the object. The more we can bring it into reality in our minds and our spirits, the quicker it will manifest around us. So, manifestation, the second of 3 keys to health and self-healing. And the third one begins with another question that's often put to me. And it's, how do I get into the heart mind? How do I get into the heart mind? How do I understand the heart mind? You talk about the heart mind, Joseph talks about the heart mind, but I think about it and I've no clue as to what it really means. Well, you've no clue as to what it really means because you are addressing the heart mind from the head mind. And the head mind knows nothing about the heart mind. It's chicken and egg. In order to experience the heart mind, you have to experience it within the heart mind. You have to change the perspective. You have to be able to visit the heart mind to bring to yourself and to others the benefits of living from the heart mind. Well, how on earth do you do that? We're going to do it now. We're going to move from the head mind into the heart mind. So I'd like you, please, to close your eyes once again, please. And we're going to use the countdown method again, because the more you become used to it, the more it becomes a useful tool in meditation. And so, as before, please visualize, clear your minds. In your mind's eye, see the number 10. It can be a word, it can be a number, but it's 10. Perhaps this time you see it more clearly than you did last time. Notice its color, its texture, the style of it, and feel yourself this time being better prepared to move into an altered state of consciousness. As you gently let go of the number 10 and replace it with a number 9. And we're becoming so much more peaceful, so much more quickly this time around. As we let go of the cares of the material world and we see the number 9 fading away and we replace it with a number 8. It's becoming quieter now, more peaceful. It's a happier atmosphere we find ourselves in as we fade away the number 8 and replace it with the number 7. Well on the way now to an altered state of consciousness, a higher state of consciousness. As we remove, fade away the number 7 and replace it with the number 6. You can feel it becoming still, quiet, calm, peaceful as you replace the number 6 with the number 5. Halfway there, but more than halfway there in feeling peaceful and ready to move into a spiritual state of mind. Replace the number 5 with the number 4. Even more peaceful, even more filled with bliss and happiness and connection to higher vibrations. Take away the number 4 and replace it with the number 3. Gently remove the number 3 and replace it with the number 2. Now, quietly and calmly, move from the number 2 and replace it with the number 1. And then fade away the number 1. So you're in a state of light and of bliss. Now I'd like you to imagine that instead of a physical being, you still have your physical body that you are inhabiting at the moment, but instead of a physical being, you are at this point in time a ball of light. You're a ball of light that is residing within your physical skull. So if you were to look at yourself from outside, you'd be able to see your head, and within your head there would be a ball of light that is you, the real you, the spiritual you, the energy that is you. Now this ball of light, this you, this real you, is movable. So what I'd like you to do now in your imagination is to move that ball of light out from inside your head, out through your brow, so that you are existing now as a ball of light outside your body, but resting against your brow, resting against your forehead. Just see that image sharply in your mind. You're a ball of light and you are resting against the center of your brow, your forehead. Now we've got some traveling to do. As that ball of light, I want you slowly and calmly to move down your body. So as a ball of light, you move from the center of your brow to the point between your eyebrows, and then you travel slowly down your nose. You move under your nose and down past your lips. You move down your chin and down the front of your neck, down your throat. You move down the top of your chest area until you come to the center of your chest, where your spiritual heart center resides. Now at this point, as the ball of light that you are, as the consciousness that you are, that has moved from your head to the center of your chest, I want you to move inwards, please, to move in through your chest, so that you are now residing inside your body, but at the center of your chest rather than in your head. And you're not seeing what you would normally see inside a physical material body. You find yourself inside a wonderful circular chamber of light, of soft pink light. And there's nothing at present in this circular chamber except a wonderfully comfortable armchair that's right in front of you. Move across as the ball of light that you are to the armchair. Transform yourself into an image of how you normally look on earth and sit in that armchair. You are in the heart center. Feel how comfortable that armchair is to your body. You could just sink into it, but it supports you perfectly at the same time. And realize that you, as you relax in that wonderful armchair, now have access to all the knowledge you need to steer yourself through life. Now there might be, as you relax in this armchair, a question that comes to mind over some aspect of your life. It could be a question that you are looking for a yes or a no answer to, or it could be a question regarding some aspect of your life that you need guidance on. You're unsure how to act. Peacefully and calmly, and this is most important, without emotion and without expectation as to what the answer will be, ask that question and see it float out to all the extremities of this chamber. Remember, you need to be neutral. We don't want to fool yourself with the answer that you receive. So ask your question and be neutral. Put to one side your emotions, your expectations of what the answer is likely to be, and then relax into the armchair and sense, feel any response that you get to that answer. If it's a yes or no question, you might feel an energy. You might see across your mind's eye the word yes, or perhaps the word no. Be observant of any energies that come to you. If it's not a yes or no answer that you're asking for, see what comes to your senses in images, or perhaps in words, or in deep feelings from within your heart as to how you should act and what your next step is. And I'll leave you for a couple of minutes in the silence to consider, to observe, and to infuse yourself with the answer to your question. Now, if you receive something, keep it in your mind. If you haven't, it doesn't matter. With practice, you will receive answers to questions from your heart center. I want you to take in however your heart center appears to you. Take in how the chair you've been sitting in looks. Take in how the chamber that is around you looks and feels. Take in the feel of the light that is around you, and transform yourself once again from an image of yourself as a physical being into a ball of light. And having done that, I want you to now move outwards again through the front of your body so that you find yourself as a ball of light resting against the outside, the center of your chest. Now we have an upward journey, short one, ahead of us, as we move ourselves as that ball of light up from the heart center, up to the top of the chest, up to the throat, up across the front of the neck, up past your chin and your lips, up under your nose, up across the top of your nose, and up to the center of your brow where you began this journey. Now move yourself as a ball of light inwards, back to the start point, back to the center of your head. As you do that, feel yourself reconnecting with your physical body, and very quickly we will take the backwards countdown to normal everyday consciousness. So see the number 1 in your mind's eye, replace it with number 2, feel yourself slowly returning to earthly consciousness as you replace the number 2 with the number 3, fade away the number 3 and replace it with a number 4. Feel all the connections between you as a spirit and you as a physical body being made again, reconnecting again as you replace the number 4 with a number 5. Fade away the number 5 and replace it with the number 6. Almost back now, replacing the number 6 with the number 7. Fade away the number 7, replace it with the number 8. The number 8 is now being replaced by the number 9. Replace that with the number 10, and asking the divine to seal your chakras so that you are immune to and protected from any negative vibrations during your daily normal lives. In your own time, slowly come back to this world. Gentleman there is not yet back with us. You didn't know you were coming in for a good sleep, did you? Now, the heart mind will steer you true if you listen to it and you obey what you as a greater self are telling yourself through the heart mind. It will always steer you true in life. And there will be times during every day when you need to consult the heart mind. And you can't go through that long process. That's something that you need to do at home when you've got 20 minutes, half an hour. So what do? Well, hand on heart, I'm here to tell you what you do. You put your hand on your heart and you say, what should I do in these circumstances? Am I right with path A? And you wait, become still, and you wait to feel the energy from your heart infuse your hand. And over time, you will know when that energy has infused your hand, and you will know whether it's a yes or it's a no. If you're unsure as to how to act in some situation, what should I do? Something or nothing? Nothing. And that might go against the grain, but there are times where we need to do nothing rather than something. So we need to get used to connecting with the heart mind, because the heart mind is the true seat of our consciousness. This is a computer. This is a fight or flight machine. This is, I've got to protect myself at all costs machine. It's not telling you what to do, it's telling you what it wants you to do. And that's not what you need. What you need is spiritual inspiration in all circumstances in your life. So I would request that you go through the meditation we've just gone through whenever you can to get used to moving your consciousness from here to here. And the more you move it from here to here, here will inform your choices, and you will know when you have made connections with the heart mind. It's a different state of mind. It's a calmer state of mind. It's a state of mind without bias. It's a state of mind without reservations. It's a state of mind that is you as a spirit. And you need that. Particularly in today's world where we're told to believe so many things. And these things are pushed upon us, and it's suggested that we don't debate, we don't ask, we don't look at these things, we simply accept. As spirits, we owe it to ourselves not to simply accept, but to double check at very least. And if something feels wrong, then go to your heart and say, am I right about this? This goes against the grain, but am I right? And if you're right, follow this and not this. So, 3 sections. Health and self-healing, manifestation, and the heart mind. And I'm going to have a drink of water now, and if you've any questions, I will attempt to answer them. Who would like to ask me a question, please? Gentlemen.
When you talk about manifestation, you said it will happen to the degree you believe it. I think in the Joseph book, it was talking about manifesting an elephant, and it doesn't happen because you don't really believe it.
Yes.
Is it purely your level or my level of belief, or is it perhaps there's 7 billion other people who know it can't be true? And
Yes,
you're
you've
trying
got-
to offset one against the other.
Well, that's a good point. In that, if you want to manifest something, don't tell anybody else. Let it be your own personal manifestation apart from people that you can trust. And it is true that there is the weight of the world that disbelieves. But as it also says in the Joseph books, one person who believes and wields the light is equal to 1,000 who don't. Our belief in the light is stronger than the world's belief in the material. And so we have to be careful with manifestation not to think, well, there might be people who don't believe this. We have to say, this is my belief, it is mine, I have linked with you, Father, that's it.
Yeah.
And then we get it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
So can I ask,
Paul?
when you manifest, do you get what, when you say about manifesting, do you get what your soul wants or your soul needs?
You get. Well, that's the point of there perhaps being consequences when you manifest. You get what you want. You have whatever you want in the measure that you believe it to be there and with you.
Right.
But as a result of manifesting, what you've manifested might be totally harmonious with your life path, or it might present you with challenges that you have to work out. In either case, you're learning and evolving.
So it could create more problems than it cures, in a word. So
It
say you
depends what it is, you know. If you want that elephant, you're going to have somewhere in your house to house it, and you're going to need a big bucket.
I'd like to know again.
Yeah, so you can have whatever you want, but you have to be not mindful, but aware that everything that we interact with has an effect on us, and we have an effect on it. And it may be that some of the things that we manifest are perfectly fine and easy for us, but some of the things we manifest come with a set of circumstances that will need to be worked through.
Is that when, like, somebody wins lottery and it causes them more problems and it ends up...
Well, that's a perfect example, isn't it? But it doesn't mean that everybody that wins the lottery is going to come across problems. There might be somebody who's perfectly able to manage that sum of money, and it helps them in certain ways that it wouldn't have done it had they not manifested it.
But a lot it doesn't it? It causes a lot of problems for people. So
It does, but each case has to be taken individually.
Yeah.
You know, whatever we manifest will take us along a short path or a slightly longer path.
Careful what you wish for.
Maybe that's a bit too negative a view of it. We have to understand that we are creative beings. In our spiritual state, if we were in one of the spiritual, we're in a spiritual realm, but if we were in a higher vibrational spiritual realm, say I wanted a glass of water, I wouldn't reach for a glass of water, I'd just say, glass of water.
Yeah, Peter's there.
There it is. And then I would put it back into the ether afterwards, and those molecules, those higher vibrational molecules, would be used to create something for somebody else. There's the greater problem of we, on this level, because of the effects of the fall, we can manifest and we don't realize we're doing it because we've lost that link. We don't realize that whatever we believe to be true, we create around ourselves. But we can't put away, as I just said with that glass of water, we've forgotten to do that on Earth.
Yeah.
So we've got layer after layer after layer of negative vibration, of destructive vibration, and we can't let it go back into the ether. We cling on to it, we don't realize that it's there, and as a result we repeat the same pattern over and over.
Hardens the illusion. Then.
It does. It does. As Joseph says, the fall, going back as far as he can go back, has occurred at least twice before. And every time it happens, it's more difficult to get us out of it. Because as you say, the layers have thickened. We become more and more material. As I think you can see at the moment, people become so material. And as I said in one of those false or made-up headlines, God doesn't exist. That's one of the imperatives of society today. There's no God. You don't go to a God, you go to us. We're God. Well, you are in a sense, but not in the sense that you mean, you know. So we've got to be extremely careful, and we've got to get things right, and we've got to get light into this world.
And I think sometimes with manifestations, you just sort of like do it once and let it go. Don't sort of have all the nuts and bolts details of how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen,
Yes.
and revisit it, remanifesting it today, just like let it go like a balloon into the sky, and then it'll come back, and often in a way that you didn't expect.
a friend of Joan's, during the Second World War, had his arm cut off in a Japanese concentration camp. And he stood in for a young doctor. They were going to do this to a young doctor, and he said, no, do it to me. He's of more use to humanity. That's the sort of man he was. Now, he believed in manifestation, and he kept saying to Joan, I'll get a new arm. She said, even with my faith, you're not going to grow a new arm, Ken. I'll get a new arm. And he kept believing this. Now, one day, there was a knock at his door, and a parcel arrived by mistake, destined for somebody else. And in it was a prosthetic arm. But again, the power of manifestation. No, it was pre. No, if it was Amazon, he'd have to send it back, wouldn't he? No, it was pre-Amazon days. Pre-Amazon, but such was his faith. He was still activating the same process, and he manifested an arm. You know, I mean, Joan herself was born with one leg shorter than the other, and her parents were told that she'd never walk again. And she tried all sorts of doctors, and they said, no, we can't do anything for her. She'll be in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. And there was a man in the village who was regarded as a quack. And in desperation, her parents went to this gentleman, and he came in to see Joan. And he said, repeat after me. God did not make funny legs. And she said, what? He said, never mind that. Repeat after me. God did not make funny legs. God did not make funny legs. I have pantomime legs. Pantomime legs. He said, look, if you will do this with me and you'll believe in it, I'll work with you. If you're not, if you don't believe in it, I'll go down. You'll never see me again. And she said, all right, I've tried everything else. Every day for, I've forgotten the number of years, because it's a number of years ago, it was either 10 or 20 years, he came twice a day. Here we go, Joan. God did not make funny legs. God, I have pantomime legs. At the end of that period, whether it was 10 or 20 years, both her legs were the same length. And she never did go into that wheelchair. Again, belief creates form. We're spirits. We are creative beings. We're angels. That's what we do. But here we do it for all the wrong reasons, and we do it negatively. We're still creating right now. The world is creating right now, but it believes in the negative side. You're getting older. You're going to be ill. You don't have enough. You're reliant on us. This person's wrong. That person's wrong. We need to fight this. We need to fight that. And that's what we're creating. We're still creating, but we don't realize that we can turn that around and create positively, create harmoniously, create divinely. And that's why the World Meditation Alliance is so important. In that we are given an instruction as to what the vibrations that we can bring into the world at any particular time are, and the effect that they're going to have on people. And one of the questions that comes up often is, why do you need the World Meditation Alliance? Why can't those vibrations simply arrive here? They can't arrive here because of what we've just been discussing. It's such a dense place that they have to be slightly lowered in frequency and then distributed by human spirits. And also, because we got ourselves into this mess, we, not they, have got to get ourselves out of this mess. And so the vibrations, the angelic intentions are made available to us, but it's up to us to then distribute them, to act as conduits for them, to say this is what the world needs at this time to change, to become more positive, more divine in nature as it was originally intended to be. And so off we go. It's over to you. And we send out that light.
Can I just ask that? When you said about asking again and again about the legs, the leg situation.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Then, but on the other hand, we're saying that you'd ask once and let it go.
Yes, but
So what's the difference?
well, remember that Joan at that point, she came into spirituality through experience. So at that point in her life, she didn't know about manifestation. She didn't realize that she could just believe and it would happen. She went on a very lonely journey and a very frightening journey because Joan used to go into trance by herself. Now, whenever I went into trance, I had people around me that would make sure that I got back in one piece, or as mentally able as I'm possible to get. But she would sit by herself. When her mother died, she decided that she would investigate life after death to see if there was anything there. And so she taught herself. She started to commune with spirits. But by the way, she'd seen spirits since she was a little girl, but didn't know in what context those spirits were visiting her. She saw the Persian gentleman when she was a little girl. And the Persian gentleman is not a guide of mine, but he's a principal mover and shaker in what happens with the Joseph communications. And he connected with Joan, and Joan connected with me, so that Joan could bring me to the point where I could see the members of the soul group and could do the work that we're doing today. So it was all set up over actually hundreds of years, because Joan and myself reincarnated several times in order to get to this point. We didn't know it, but the first time I saw her, I wandered into an open circle, and this lady was sitting across from me, and I thought, I know you, you're a nurse. I've never seen her before on this level in my life. And we got chatting, and I discovered that during World War II, she was a nurse. And she was tending wounded soldiers, and all the other nurses in her department had suffered from mental difficulties as a result of what they'd seen and what they'd had to deal with on a daily basis. Not Joan, she was the only one that survived mentally intact. But at that point, when that doctor or that specialist came into her life, she didn't realize any of this. She in later life, as we said earlier, she would say, I need this, God, it's done. I need the car, it's done. Because it was a path, and she learned. I didn't understand about manifestation earlier in my life. My life was a matter of my mind dictating to me in all circumstances what to do and making a mess of things. I only took control of my own life at the point at which I understood that there was communication with higher realms, and that there was a purpose to the white light that could be brought through. So it's a matter of us step by step understanding spirituality. I don't know everything. At the end of a year, I look back and think, well, I didn't know what I know now at the beginning of the year. Spirituality and the evolution of a spiritual path is a constant. It's constantly unfolding. And you will understand one thing and think, that's wonderful. And then something else will come along and refine what you already know and be added to what you already know. And it's a matter of having an open mind and an open heart. We have so many souls here that are trapped within the confines of the physical mind. They can't countenance anything that is outside their experience to a certain point. Whereas with spirituality, you have to go to here and say, let me examine this. Let me consider this. Let me make my own mind up as a spirit about this. And then it keeps unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. But it will continue to unfold and unfold and unfold as we move through the spiritual spheres. And more about that this afternoon. Does that answer your question? That's why she couldn't instantly connect with that. Thank you.
Just on the point of illnesses, when you're talking about illnesses, is eating meat linked to that? Is eating animals linked to that? Because, you know, they say don't eat all the meat and it's bad for what they call it, but it's bad vibration-wise because the industry now, the food industry, is so cruel and so terrible what it does with animals.
I think it has to be a matter of personal conscience, but I also have to say that it's not just the meat industry.
No.
It's most of the food that you eat is a poison to you. I don't want to get political, but most of the food that you eat is a poison, and it's a poison on purpose. It's a poison because it's addictive, and it's a poison because if it puts you in the hands of certain members of the medical profession, not all by any means, but certain. Yes, pharmaceuticals. Because you are looked at as a patient, as a certain value, within the period that you will be treated. Within the period you'll be treated. So it's a corruption, and that corruption goes back to the time of the fall, when we felt at the point of the fall that we didn't have enough power. I haven't got enough personal power, so I've got to take it from somebody else. And that you can see that that's coming to the surface again. And we were warned when we broke through the fall, which was, what, 15 years ago? Something like that?
It's 2012 when we published.
2012. We didn't realize that the fall was a prophecy, because Joseph brought it gradually into the books. He said, I'm going to talk about the fall. And we thought, what's that? Sorry? It's an amazing book. I can say that because I didn't write it. But it is an amazing book, and it explains down to the smallest detail what went wrong, why it went wrong, and what we have to do to get out of this situation. One of my greatest sadnesses in life is that more people haven't taken up the fall. And I'm not talking about the people in this room, but I believe the reason that not more people have taken up that book is because of two words: personal responsibility. And that is the barrier that we find with a lot of readers. With many, many readers, there isn't that barrier. But with a lot of readers, there's that barrier of, I've got to do something. No, forget that. I've got to take responsibility for myself. Forget that. I can affect this world positively and help others. Forget that. And that's why we're in the mess. We'll never get out of it until we accept personal responsibility. So you can see the fall in all aspects of the world at the moment. And again, I've got to point to the World Meditation Alliance, because there has never been a time when there has been since the last fall, there has never been a time when there has been such a need for light, such a need for higher vibrations, such a need for a reconnection with spiritual consciousness. You know, most people, many souls go through each day, they'll never have a single spiritual thought. Not one. They go from life to death, birth to death, and they never think, what am I? Why am I here? Where is here? Is there anything else? How can you move through life without asking those questions and seeking answers? Not to go to the Joseph Communications, but to seek for yourself those answers and to open up possibilities. You know, we're on a ball of rock. It's spinning, and then it's spinning around a sun. And there are other balls of rock. And then we're part of a galaxy, and the galaxy is part of other galaxies. There's a universe. Joseph talks about universes, plural. And we're concerned about controlling people with drugs. Doesn't it put things into perspective?
Yeah, it's so very locked in and small.
It is locked in, yeah. And that is why the heart mind is so important, because we have to regularly, in order to open ourselves up spiritually, get literally out of our minds. Not out of this mind, out of this mind and into this mind, and start to connect with what we really are. Because as I put on Facebook a few days ago, there's too much of us to be poured into one physical frame. We've lived multiple times, we've had multiple experiences. And so there is the greater self, which is, I suppose, the equivalent spiritually of the cloud digitally. So all that we have been can't be contained by one little physical mind. But we have access to those experiences. We have access to those lives that we've lived and what we understand as a result of having lived them. And so it's not just a matter of connecting to the heart mind for a higher vibrational inspiration. It's a matter of going to the heart to connect with who we really are, to see what we need to do or don't do in all circumstances, and to rely on this. We can't rely on the material world. We can't. At this point, we can't rely on it for anything. It will tell us black is white and white is black. And it will shove it down our throats.
£500 for that information.
Absolutely. Yes, because we've replaced God with mammon. This is God. These notes are God. You should worship these notes. No, you shouldn't.
No.
It's God we should go to because we're part of God. And we've divorced ourselves from what we are. We have to get back to what we are, or this world will never change. Hence the WMA.
Michael, could you perhaps explain about the Persian gentleman and the cell group? There's people wonder whether the Persian gentleman comes through to other other people with psychic ability.
Yes.
And the second part I was going to say, if you're prepared to open up on privy stuff that you and I have, could you just say about the sort of indication that we get from the other side about the effectiveness of the WMA?
Yes. Yeah. So the first part, the Persian gentleman. This sounds arrogant, and I don't mean it to be. And I always say, you know, why is it us that's involved in this work? Why not? It has to be somebody, you know. But the preparation for bringing through the Joseph information, the preparation for the World Meditation Alliance has taken hundreds of years. I incarnated with Joan, and I have memories of those incarnations in Egypt. We were in Egypt. I was female, and this arm didn't work. And Joan and myself were seers on behalf, not of ourselves, but of the royalty at that time. And I remember being in a temple, and it was dark, and there were troughs running along the floor. And those troughs contained water. And I didn't know what they meant for many years until I saw a program on Egypt, and there was an archaeologist talking about Egyptian temples and saying, oh, there was a water network with troughs going through the equivalent of a cathedral, a church, a place of worship. We incarnated once as two Chinese fishermen, and there wasn't much in that life apart from very pleasantly fishing in a little boat and taking care of ourselves and eating the fish. And that was most of what that life was about. We were married in one life, and we had very distinct and identical memories of that life in that we were in Germany. And we could describe the house that we had, and a very nice house it was too. I don't know what's gone wrong this time round. Right down to the curtains and the furniture. And we had 3 children. And we came out on this particular day, and we had a horse and carriage. I think there were a couple of horses. And we got in, and the children got in. And to go to the town, you had to go down the side of a mountain. There was a road down the side of a mountain. And a storm broke out. And as the horse was, I was driving the horse, so you can blame me for this. As we were going down the mountain, a bolt of lightning struck ahead of the horse, or the horses. The horses reared up, and we went tumbled down the side of the mountain. And we ended up in a wooded area, and there was me and Joan and the 3 children, and we got up and dusted ourselves down, and I said, oh, we're dead. Jane and myself have been together before. Jane came, you were a bit late, weren't you, by 6 years? Jane came to support me in this work, but also has tremendous intuition. And we are 2 halves of the same thing. So it's another point in the story of how important the Joseph communications are. Because believe me, we didn't want to come back, but we had to come back because somebody had to come back. And you think, well, why not the Persian gentleman? That's next time, I think. I think we'll sit round the pool. And I mean, Tony and myself, how long have we been working together now? 15 years?
Yeah, 15 years.
And the journey we've been on has opened itself up and shifted to a concentration on light and the World Meditation Alliance. And so all these jigsaw pieces have had to come together in order for the Joseph communications to take place and for the World Meditation Alliance to become a thing that is made available worldwide. As for the efficacy of what we're doing, I think that's reflected in what the Persian gentleman says about the intentions. He will say, for example, it is reaching people in a certain way. It will cause them to think about this aspect of their lives. It will put the brakes on in that aspect of their lives. And it's true to say, Tony, isn't it, that people come up to you and say, this has happened to me. That's happened to me.
Absolutely.
And it also always is within the parameters of what the Persian gentleman has said exactly will happen. And it's a layering of vibration. We didn't know that as we started, but the Persian gentleman brought through the first of the intentions, and we sent that out, and then the second of the intentions. But he revealed after a while that those intentions are layered. So it's not like we bring in a certain vibration and then we take it away again. We leave that vibration there, and then we mix that vibration with a further vibration. So that there's a layering of light and vibration to get through to those souls who will react at soul level to what is being made available to them. But we have to say that is without coercion. It's not something that they have to take up. If they wish to react spiritually to the vibrations that are sent out, they react spiritually. If they don't, that's also okay. We don't like it, but it's also okay. It will reach those that are ready to receive those vibrations. And as they receive those vibrations, and as they begin to change, then they reach out without saying anything or doing anything to the people around them on a material level, to other people. And they are lifted up. So slowly but surely, it is spreading. And it is lifting people up, and it is putting more light into the world. Have I missed anything, Tony?
About PG and whether other people can...
Oh, yes. Sorry, yeah. And again, this sounds arrogant, but my point in saying that Jane and myself have been together, Tony and myself are here for a purpose and are linked together, Joan and myself were linked together, is that the Persian gentleman was seen by Joan from being a child. And we'll talk to Joan. He used to call her Joni. So you have this great shining being and say, hello, Joni, are you all right? You know. And he was there so that she could react to him, so that I could be introduced to him on a material level, which I was. I'd never come across him before. I didn't think I had. And then could begin to communicate with him. And then it was revealed to me that he had been with me since before my birth in order for me to do this work. So, now, he has said on numerous occasions, because there have been people, and I shouldn't laugh, but they've said, oh, I've had Joseph through, and he's advising about this and about that. Well, no, he isn't, I'm afraid, because there are other setups across the world with similar spiritual work to do, but this setup is specifically tuned to our vibrations. And so Joseph only comes through to me, but not to aggrandize me, but to bring through the messages that he wants to bring through. And the Persian gentleman only comes through to me because he's on my vibration, I'm on his, and it's specific to all the work that's been put in to get us to this point. He revealed to us after we'd been together for about 6 months, he said, you're twin souls. I said, what? He said, you're twin souls. He says, you're part of the same thing. He said, you make a complete angel between yourselves. So I'm very sorry, but this is what a complete angel looks like. But again, it shows the involvement that's had to take place in order for the communications to take place. In my earlier life, I had no idea this was going to happen. None at all. And when I began working as a medium, I spent years, I suppose it was the equivalent of going to the northern clubs, really, for a stand-up comic. I spent years going to spiritualist churches all over the country. And I used to do about 120, 130 services. Where are you? No. I could only travel so far and get back, because I was working at the time as well, you see. So it would only be...
So, Matt, was there no other mediums? Because I used to go to churches when I was 20, 40 years ago. I saw a trance medium first when I was about 20.
Yes.
And I used to grind up spiritual churches, Rottenstone, Burnley, Blackburn.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. And so you'll know a lot of mediums then?
No, now I don't. Because I've been working on the Joseph side for over 20 years.
Right.
And I became disappointed with not all, but with some of the spiritualist churches, because there came a point at which they said they had to read out, this is just an entertainment. And I thought, no, it isn't.
I'm not mentioning any names, but it sounds like the SNU to me. Sounds like the
Well,
SNU.
I'm not mentioning any names either. It's a long while ago that Also, I was frustrated in that I would go to churches year in, year out. The same people would come in, and I tried to give some philosophy, some teaching with each service, because I felt that was the most important thing. And you could see them. There was a little troop that used to follow me around, which was a bit groupie-ish for philosophies. But you could see the difference. And now we're going to move on to the clairvoyance. Yes, that's what they wanted. They wanted the clairvoyance. And they would get a message, and within 5 minutes they'd forgotten it, and they came back the next week for a message. Now, it's okay that your granddad comes through and knows that you've just painted the front door. But how does that affect the world? We're each a part of the other. How does that affect everybody else? How is that lifting things up? And that was part of the journey that took me to Joseph. That there were people in increasing amounts of light that had something really worthwhile to share with us. And beyond that, there were other levels. I've seen angels in their true form, and that is spellbinding. I've seen spirits that are so luminous, your eyes, your spiritual eyes slide off them. You can't see them. You can just see points of light in the shape of a human person, you know. So I became aware that there was more than one level, that heaven is a moving target. And heaven is available to us now if we will just change the way that we approach this world and each other. How are we doing for time? Oh, it's 10 to another.
You mentioned movers and shakers.
Yes.
And I've read the fall, and I can't stop my head from thinking of movers and shakers here in this material world, you know, the rich and the powerful, the
Yes.
1%, that basically, you know, they are the media, they are Big Pharma, and how they relate to the fall, and, you know, the movers and shakers.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
just, and my head goes round in a spin.
Well,
Maybe you could just try and...
yes. Joseph mentions, doesn't he, in the fall, that the same personalities rise to the top time and again because we haven't changed the frequency. And so the instigators, and the fall originally wasn't a criminal act, it wasn't an evil act, it was a group of us as angels saying, you know, God, we've got a better way than you. We know how to create in a different way, a faster way. And the rest of the angelic host, we're talking in abstracts now, said, won't work, you know. And we said, yes, it will. Yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to apply it to this planet. It won't work. We're going to bring greater glory to God. Won't work. We're going to do it anyway. And we did it, and the light went out. We severed our connection consciously as physical beings with the divine that we're a part of. Joseph also says, getting away from the fall is simply a matter of deciding that we're not going to invest in it anymore. In saying, no, that's wrong, we're not doing that. We're walking away from it. But in the meantime, the instigators, those that said, and we followed them, again, for want of better words, we're dealing with abstracts in physicality. The instigators still believe at core that they're right. We were right. We were right then, we're right now. And as a result, that vibration attracts similar vibrations when they incarnate and drives them up to the top. And they indulge in exactly the same things they did at the time of the fall. And you can see it now. I mean, you look at people and you say, how can you get up today and say, I'm going to harm somebody? And know you're going to do it. How can I worship money? How can I want more and more and more power? And I think, do you not realize you're not going to be here for very long? Do you think you're going to be the one that somehow cheats, that can say, I've got all this money, God, I'm not going anywhere? You know, what are you doing? Can you not see what you're doing? The thing is, they can see what they're doing. They know fully what they're doing. And they identify with, they connect with the lower thought forms that have been created since the time of the fall from our thoughts, from our desires. I mean, Joseph talks in one of the books about harnessing, he says, do demons exist? He said, yes, they do, but they know what you think. They were actually nature spirits that were used in a particular way through ritual to get what human souls wanted. And I can give you an example. We were once called to somebody's house, and they'd had cancer. Members of the family had had cancer. There was a senior citizens' home across the way, and there was a dreadful number of people that were dying off. Now, you'd expect older people to die off, but this was above the average, well above the average. And there was something definitely wrong in the house. And we went there, and I could see that the ley lines that intersected the house had been altered. They'd been pulled in a certain direction. And we went into a garage, I think, or like a warehouse section. And there, in that warehouse, was a diva spirit, a lady, strung up, tied by tendrils of energy to all the corners of this room. And I thought, what on earth do we do? This lady has been here for, I don't know, centuries perhaps. And so I was given instruction by one of the guys from the soul group, and we joined together, we encircled her, and we prayed. And the tendrils fell away, and she sort of stood up in front of us. And it was, we were moved to tears really, because it was such a dreadful thing that had happened to this spirit. And she came to me and she put into my hands a seed. And from this seed grew this big tree. And she said, that's for the communication. And thank you. And she left. So you have an example of a nature spirit used, and we knew there'd been ritual around this spirit, used for evil, used for negativity, and had been left there because you've got to have somebody who can see to see that there is somebody stuck there, left there for perhaps hundreds of years. Now, the garage wouldn't have been there when first she was put into that predicament, but there must have been some sort of building there. So,
Is these what the Indians talk about, these diva spirit, why they used to use them as positive, you know, for to protect things, the native Indians?
well, it's funny, we were watching something, weren't we, the other a fiction about a wolf spirit, an Indian ritual. And I looked at, there was a totem pole. And it occurred to me, because I think I've spoken in here before, I know the location of, and I'm not giving it away, and I won't ever give it away. There is a stone that is in Lancashire somewhere, and I've communicated with that stone, or rather I've been privileged to allow it has communicated with me. And that stone was part of a network of stones that used to be revered and used to bring through healing and information and inspiration to the members of a village that built up around it. And it said that it linked to a network of stones across the world, similar stones. And it was a bridge between the heavens and the earth. And I looked at the totem pole and I thought, that's the same thing. I now understand what the totem pole is for, because it is another representation of that energy. So my point, going back to what I was saying, is that we have harnessed, and I'm sure it still goes on at some level, we have harnessed nature spirits, we have harnessed divas, and we have perverted that energy for our own ends. And I'm sure that there are nature spirits that have been perverted to such an extent that their vibration is now negative. And they are sitting on the backs of so many people that suppose they are in charge today. I'm not going to name names.
At the time of the fall, there were people, let's organise the world in this way and have a better way of creation. And now you've got the elites, and it's like, let's rule the world in this way and we'll do this because it's a better form. So it's the same kind of thing, and those personalities, we're not saying who's who.
It's driven through ego.
It's driven through that subconscious desire to repeat the effects of the fall. And it's driven from the simple sentence, I was right, I still am. But I'm not naming any names here, because once we get into politics, we have individual, materially based projections as to who's right and who's wrong. What we have to look at is getting the whole thing right, and getting that sea of negativity diverted and away from us so we can get back to this earth being what it was supposed to be. And it was supposed to be what the other planets are to the angelic visitors, and it is a playground. It is a playground of experience, but not the nasty experience we're having at the moment. It is a playground of experience so that we can take that experience back to the angelic host and say, look what I've learned. It was great down there. It's not great at the moment, is it?
Do you say nasty experience? I think it's been going through my mind. Is there a temptation that, because it's talked in the books about the world is not supposed to be the way it is and there's a greater light to come, is not a temptation to sort of, once you realise that, wish your time away so you can get on and not come back and lose some of the magic that's here now? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And I think the perfect answer to that is the attitude of Joseph Soul Group. And every single member of Joseph Soul Group is in a position that they could move onwards now. They could move on to higher spheres now. They don't do so because we are their brothers and sisters, because they cannot rest, because there is, in their minds, perhaps only in the back of their minds, there is that link to us that some of our brothers and sisters are still in trouble. And because we are one unit, we can't move on until they move on.
Yeah. So it's a self-sacrifice now, but there's still magic to be had in this world.
Oh,
as it
absolutely
is.
there is.
And you want to see that whilst acknowledging it's not perfect. Does that make sense?
The more you acknowledge the magic, the more perfect it becomes, because you drive out the negativity from your own life, and therefore you become a beacon for the light, and you affect others so that they can discover magic as well.
Yeah.
For many years, to supplement my income, I put together, co-published a magazine on science fiction and fantasy modelling. And as a result, I was able to visit the film studios, Shepperton and Pinewood, and see films being made. And at the end of that period, I was very sad to give it up, but I knew there was spiritual work to do. And one of the guides came through and said, how did you enjoy that time? It was magic, wasn't it? So yes, we can have magic, and we should look for magic. And we should remember that there is magic in this life and magic in our lives. By doing so, we help to banish that which is not magic. Thank you. I think,
Yeah, I was just thinking, magic is something that you experience within, isn't it?
Yes.
It's that wow moment that we talk about, that joy. But it's spotting it and recognising it and knowing it for what it is. It's not just lucky. Oh, that was lucky. And once you start looking at life like that, life changes.
During the time of bringing through Joseph, every time we brought through Joseph, the atmosphere would change. And it's indescribable, the peace and the energy and the love that came with that switch of vibration in order for the communications to take place.
Do you remember in Ireland?
Oh, yes. Over to you, Tony.
We went to, we did a road show for a while. Michael was bringing through Joseph live, which can't happen now, but it did then. And of course, I come from Wexford in Ireland, where I spent quite a bit of my life. And so we went there, and we went over in the car, and we booked in this hotel called the Talbot Hotel on the front of and that's where the do was. And we went in the room, and it was wood partitions, floor to ceiling that moved, so they could make little rooms and big rooms and things like hotels have. And we got in there, we thought, my God, we can't stay here. The energy was like nothing you could ever experience. I thought, there's no chance that Michael can work in this atmosphere. What can we do? And my idea was to get another hotel. I knew the town, so I was going to ring round and see whether we could get somewhere else where we could go. And we're in the room, and it was like a dome came down over us, wasn't it? It was absolutely...
Light, dome of light.
Dome of light.
The room itself was very dark,
It was
wasn't it?
absolutely incredible. And again, you can't put into words the actual enormity of the energy that came in, and it just shaded us for the whole evening. And then we went down for breakfast the day after. It was awful again.
Gone.
It had gone.
It is used for the purpose, and then that's it.
Yeah, but again, you could say that was lucky, but it's spotting it, and it's living in that life, knowing it, and somebody once told me the wow moments are like prayer. That's what God wants to hear. So we're getting close to lunchtime.
we
We
are.
could take one more question if it... Rebecca. That's a cop-out, Rebecca.
It's all right.
I have a question, but I've forgotten it, so he can do it.
There is a question and answer session as part of this afternoon as well. So, but the gentleman.
We've time for one.
Actually, I thought because this lady here was actually trying to ask a question. Go, ask your question.
No, I was just saying.
Pass the question.
The energy that is being put down, the spiritual energy from world meditation, all this energy that's coming down into the world does help the biggest way, doesn't it, to change?
Oh yes.
And also, there's an awful lot of information now coming out about what you were saying about the money that's being used by people, the banks, everything like that, you know, the
Yes.
natural health centre, everything
Yes.
that's going on.
Yes.
All this information is now beginning to come out more and more. Now, some people are going into it, and others are at a stage where, you know, they don't. So more energy that's coming down will help.
All this was predicted. The Persian gentleman said at one point, the dominoes will fall. They will start to fall. And we've seen it. And at every point he said, this will happen, that will happen. And we thought, well, it can't. But then during the period of a specific vibration, it has happened. And what we see materially, as you say, more truths have been uncovered. Things are more open now and coming to light than they were, is as a result, and I say this without arrogance, as a result of the workings of the World Meditation Alliance. It's that important. It's that important. That light is changing things here. And it's not us, it's the light that we're distributing. And the attention we're paying to specific vibrations and their purpose as they come through.
And the intention says in the first 6 months of this year, it will appear like things are dismantling and falling apart. It says exactly that.
And there's been a change. I mean, a few years ago, there was a great sadness with the soul group. And it looked as though we were heading completely into the fall again. And we had warnings from Joseph and warnings from the Persian gentleman, which is still on YouTube, saying if you don't change this, this is going to happen. You'll see things tumbling down. There is an elevated move now from that point. So we are making a difference, and we've got to continue making a difference. Because things can never change on a material level, they have to change first on a spiritual level. That's where we began, that's where we are, that's where we make the change. And then it filters down into the material level. Thank you for that question.
That's a very quick question, sorry. When we live more and more from the heart mind and day to day, personally I find it quite hard to reconcile this world, this physical world, with my heart mind.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if you had any advice, or it's quite a lonely existence.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's quite challenging, but I wouldn't live any other way.
No.
But it's hard sometimes to live in this world as a spiritual being.
It is, but that is one of the consequences, if you like, of opening your spiritual eyes. It's hard for me, it's hard for Jane, it's hard for Tony, because we see the world. At that moment, you see the world as it is. And the scales fall from your eyes and you think, oh my goodness, I never expected it to be like this. But in order to put things right, we have to see how things are wrong. And it is a lonely existence, except when you connect with like-minded people. And maybe they, you know, there might be 1,000 people that are not like-minded and 2 that are, but those 2 that are will make your day and make your year and make your existence worthwhile because they're on the same page. And so it's, I suppose it's a blessing and a curse.
It is. Yes.
It's a curse because you see things as they are, but as you said quite rightly, and I feel the same way, you can't go back and you wouldn't want it any other way.
No.
Because you know the absolute truth from here. And that can't be shaken. You can't run with the herd any longer. You have to run with what your heart is telling you and what you know absolutely, not from this, but from this, to be right, to be true. And then you work as you are doing to make a difference. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful question. Oh, sir. I know you.
Does not love play an important role in what we've discussed this morning.
Absolutely. It plays a vital
Because
role.
it's with our love for God, our love for spiritual things, we'll make sure what we manifest, we'll use it correctly.
Yes, but we're using the term light, but the term light and love, they're interchangeable. They're the same thing. So we're distributing love. It's love energy expressed as light. So everything we do is in love. When I was talking about the reason that the soul group doesn't move on, it's because they love us. They love us so much that they have to lift us out of this. We love each other in here today. I'm not afraid to say it, and we have to be able to say it. In love, we work. In love, we are one. In love, we're community and brothers and sisters. So you're absolutely right. And God is love. God, that energy is love. And that's what we are attempting, working to bring back into the world, because there is a lack of it. You know, you look at the love for power. It's the wrong love. The love for power, the love for control, the love for money. It's nothing to do with God love. God love is we are all the same thing. And it's wonderful that we're all the same thing. And it's wonderful that we can celebrate being the same thing. And that is worth no amount of money, no amount of supposed power. And that's a connection to what we are. Yes, we're love. Thank you.
It's such a powerful energy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Spiritually speaking, it raises the roof.
Yes. Yes. And you can feel you can feel in this room the power of the love that we're generating to each other and reaching out to each other. Thank you. That was a lovely question.
Thank you. And I'm going
so
to
much.
take control now.
Right.
I'm going to do my material bit. And thank you so much, Michael. It was so inspiring.
Thank you.
Part one.
Part one.
Yeah.